Welcome to Rewatch-and-Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. And today's episode is Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, Season 1, Episode 7, Pride Comes Before a Brawl. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happens in the episode. So in this episode, it starts with Hercules wanting to be the bigger person and go across the river further down to avoid some bandits who are basically tolling a bridge. Aeolus, however, is too proud, thinks they can take them, so even though Hercules wants to walk away and avoid a fight, Aeolus decides to start a fight once Hercules' back is turned, then gets angry at Hercules for helping him in the brawl when he ends up over his head, and Aeolus kind of gets an attitude from there, and they continue on their way to Thrace, where they are going for some athletic games. And then they reach a fork in the road, and there is a sign that states that Thrace is one way, but Aeolus is sure it's the other way, so he and Hercules, after a fight, basically make a bet for 100 dinars that who is going to get there first. So Hercules goes his way, Aeolus goes his way. Hercules makes it to a river where there's a boatman who basically is expecting there to be a lot of traffic due to the games, so he agrees to take Hercules to Thrace, but he has to wait for his boat to fill up. Hercules decides that'll take too long, but the river is full of monsters, serpents, piranhas, giant eels, and the like. So he basically then says that this boat that's currently beach bound, if I can take it to the water, can I borrow it? And the guy, not realizing who he's talking to, thinks 10 men are needed to move this boat, so says sure. And then Hercules, of course, drags it into the river, where he then starts to casually row down the stream. Meanwhile, Aeolus ends up in the forest on the path, and then he ends up falling for a trap set by a group of bandits pretending to be satyrs. And earlier in the episode, we saw a woman running through the woods getting captured by these same satyrs, and Aeolus is thrown into the same pit she's in, and they decide to team up and start working together. And so Aeolus and Lydia first trick the satyrs when they come to take them from the pit to kill them, by having Aeolus wear her skirt so that they think he's her, and then he basically knocks them out. They climb up the rope that they've put down into the pit and start making a run for it. Then, once they're in the woods, because they're outnumbered so severely and they don't really have their weapons, Aeolus first has them lose the scent because there's dogs chasing them by getting covered in mud, which is a old hunter's trick to lose their scent, which works. Then they set up a bunch of traps so that when the bandits come back, he's able to, use antlers to stab one, have a log go on another one in kind of a snare trap. And they have some success, get to the river, and then decide to hide in the river until the bandits go away, which is successful until Lydia is attacked by one of the giant eels. Aeolus then jumps in the water and defeats the eel, but this has alerted the bandits to where they are, and the lead bandit, having seen how all of his other men, not all of them, but a lot of them, had been taken in by these traps and killed, he decides he can be clever too, and he basically tricks them into going into a cave. Inside the cave is a hydra, and having faced the hydra before with Hercules, he knows he cannot cut off the head because more will grow. And when Lydia asks how they defeated it last time, he notes that it's scared of fire, so she cleverly manages to start a fire and scare the hydra away. And then when the bandit comes back in, Aeolus distracts the bandit long enough for the fire to go out. while Lydia runs to the entrance, and then Aeolus runs to the entrance, leaving the bandit to face the Hydra. And Hercules, meanwhile, through all of this, has been casually on the river with Nemesis, who is the basically executioner of the gods, who imparts divine justice upon their targets. And she reveals that for his pride and his arrogance and his ego, Hera has determined that Aeolus has to die in punishment for these vices, and that she was the one who set up the bandits at the bridge, and she's the one who's kind of set him up to die, and that he is to die by an arrow. And Hercules, of course, wants to help his friend, so he turns back to go and help him, but Nemesis keeps trying to stop him, saying, like, let Aeolus overcome this on his own. You've helped him too much. That's why his pride is hurt. That's why he's behaving the way he is, and arguing and all these other things. And then when he sees Aeolus and Lydia come out of the cave with the Hydra all, happy and high on their victory, he understands what she's saying, so he then goes to Thrace, pretends to be sleeping when they arrive, like he's been there for so long, and basically won the bet. But then Lydia starts talking about, all the adventures that they've had, and that's why they're late. And basically, Hercules says that he always knew Aeolus was a great hunter, warrior, friend, etc., and that he would trust him with his life. So Aeolus then basically gives him a fruit to put on his head and then blindfolds himself to, shoot the arrow at Hercules. And because he inside his head decides that he is not going to kill Hercules or actually shoot the arrow, basically swallowing his pride and considering it enough just knowing that Hercules would put his life in his hands, Nemesis then basically aborts her mission because he's overcome his pride, which is what he was being punished for. And Hercules is able to yell out a warning of the bandit who's about to shoot Aeolus with an arrow. And then basically, happy ending. Aeolus has overcome his pride. Everybody's happy. Everybody's alive. And that's what happened. So now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, we'll now rank the episode. As always, we'll rank first on the mostly objective ranking, followed by the personal ranking. So mostly objective ranking, we have to start our single episode supporting character introduction, which was Lydia, and that's worth 1 point. Then we have our supporting relationship development, which is between Aeolus and Lydia. They flirt back and forth. He's frequently on top of her when they're hiding in the mud, when he helps her out of the water, even when they get out of the cave, and they flirt. They end up kissing. They obviously form some sort of attachment. Of course, it is a single episode attachment, but it still exists. Therefore, I'm counting it for points. That's worth 2 points. Then we have 3 points for the multi-season supporting character introduction, and this is Nemesis. Nemesis is recast with various different actors, or actresses, I should say, but she does recur, and she does recur in multiple seasons. I believe 5 episodes overall she is in, and so worth 3 points. And in this episode, her introduction establishes her as the bringer of divine justice, and also that she can turn into a dove. She has a history with Hercules. They met when he was 10. He apparently kissed her then. And it is kind of funny because in this episode, of course, when he meets her, it's like an old friend. He hugs her, and then we see a fisherman on the riverbank who's like looking at him, and no one else can see Nemesis, only Hercules can. So he's basically standing there like hugging air on this boat, which I thought was funny. And then later he gives her a chaste kiss goodbye, and she, of course, again, nobody else can see her or hear her. So it literally just looks like he's standing there kissing the air, which I found really funny, obviously. So fun fact, she can only be seen apparently by, well, I don't know if it's just Hercules because she chose just Hercules to see her, or if it's something like only the divine can see her and she'd be invisible to mortals because Hercules is, of course, half divine. I don't know exactly why he's the only one who's seeing her, but either way, he is the only one who can see her. Then we have the multi-season main character growth, which is Aeolus overcoming his pride through defeating the eel, the bandits, and Hydra, and swallowing his pride, where it concerns Hercules, who he felt like originally had hurt his pride. Either way, goes through some growth, so that is worth 4 points, which does bring us up to 10 points. However, obviously, negative messaging or behavior, banditry is bad. Don't be a bandit. Minus 2 points, that brings it to an 8 out of 10. I suppose also honorable mention, Aeolus, when he's dealing with his pride, is pretty dislikable when he is suffering from pride, and that is one of the 7 deadly sins, so I could also include that in the negative messaging or behavior, but I felt like that was a little too abstract, so I settled on just banditry, still leaving it as an 8 out of 10 episode. Which brings our mostly objective ranking to In First, The Wrong Path as Darkness Falls. This episode does end up third. Pride comes before a brawl. The Road to Caledon, Ares, The Festival of Dionysus, and then Eye of the Beholder in last place. And then we have my personal ranking. And my personal ranking, first I want to note that pride comes before a fall is the standard saying, which they do say in the episode as well. But I really do like how they've made a little play on words with the pride comes before a brawl, especially because the episode opens on a brawl. I thought it was clever. I enjoyed that. I liked the episode. There was a lot of action. Aeolus we haven't seen since episode 1, so him coming back and then this being a Aeolus-centric episode was nice to see because obviously, like I really like the juxtaposition. You know what? I can't even say it. Juxtaposition of Aeolus going through all these trials, tribulations, fights, and meanwhile Hercules is just sitting on a boat talking to Nemesis and just having a grand old time. I thought that was great. Now, like I said, Aeolus was very obnoxious in this episode. Did not necessarily enjoy him when he was dealing with his pride, and even when Hercules was gone, he's still like even facing the bandits was, you know, to like, leading Lydia, do this, do this, do this. Here's my idea. Don't fight back against it. Still very proud and everything. He only ever overcame pride at the end, and even that was more told to us than shown to us. So I didn't necessarily enjoy his attitude. However, a lot of action, like I said. Lydia was a pretty fun character as well. She was a good sport about everything. They both showed cleverness with all the traps, the fact that there was like multiple situations that they got in throughout the episode, and just kind of the moral lesson of, pride comes before the fall and all that, and overcoming it, I think was a good lesson. So I gave it a 7 out of 10 for the entertainment value because it was an engaging plot. And even though it was Aeolus-centric, it still took the time to go back to Hercules because, well, if you've watched this channel for a while, you probably know that if a main character is established, I typically do not necessarily enjoy episodes in which the main character is not present. But in this one, he was present, and he also had to learn the lesson to let Aeolus fight his own battles and, have his own successes. He can't just like if he keeps coddling him, helping him too much, he'll always have hurt pride. He won't know just like, how talented he is, so on and so forth. Kind of the message that Nemesis was trying to send by preventing Hercules from helping, which again is another good moral lesson for the episode. So I did enjoy it. Did not like the attitude. That's why I gave it a 7. And that then brings my personal rankings so far to First as Darkness Falls, Eye of the Beholder, this episode in third, Pride Comes Before a Brawl, The Festival of Dionysus, Ares, The Wrong Path, and then The Road to Caledon in seventh. And now our series ranking so far. On our mostly objective ranking, season 1 has 44 out of a possible 130 so far, and the personal side 45 out of 130 so far. With that, we've now rewatched and ranked Hercules: The Legendary Journeys, Season 1, Episode 7, Pride Comes Before a Brawl. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.